So I'm Taylor, and I grew up in Oak Brook, right down the street from Christ Church. When I was in high school, I moved to Hinsdale. Grew up in the area, went to Hinsdale Central, played soccer, currently reside in Chicago. I went to Christ Church of Oak Brook for preschool for a year. Kind of didn't really go after that, didn't really grow up in a house of believers. So I kind of had to take it upon myself. I have an older sister. She also is not a big believer. They all believe in God and everything, but not really like their own. I really made my faith my own, or started to go on my faith journey when I enrolled in the confirmation groups. So in high school, I found God freshman year, but it wasn't like, all right, hey Big J, here we go. Like everything's dandy from there. It's not really how it went, and it's not how it goes. It's kind of a roller coaster of a ride. And so in high school, I definitely got involved with a crowd that was into the party scene. I definitely think that was a huge hiccup, and that was something that kind of drew me away from God. And it was kind of this double life I was living. Wednesdays and Sunday nights, I had this great group of friends that supported me and built me up, but every other day of the week or during school, I was talking about what we were doing on the weekends on Friday nights, and we were laughing about what happened the weekend before, and it was kind of this like guilt that was just built inside me, and it was really a hindrance on my faith. I think that the guilt and the shame that I was having wasn't necessarily from the actions of what I was doing, but kind of that double life. Like, all right, I'm saying one thing, but I'm living completely a different. I'm not, I'm preaching something and I'm not living out the life. And it was hard because you don't really realize the toll that it's taking on you until you're gone. And it's hard because you have these friends that you really like, and they're great people, but they're not helping you get closer to God. So I had this friend, Maggie, who also went to Koinonia with me and went to Mosaic and was really a part of my life. And she kind of started hanging out with my group of friends too, and she's like, Taylor, look at who you are when you're with them, and look who you are when you're at church and surrounded by these people. It's a different Taylor. She's like, you're not happy, you're not genuinely happy when you're doing this. And that was huge for me to realize, all right, I need to make sure I find more friends that are gonna bring me up and guide me towards God, but not even towards God, but be able to have that conversation and look me in the eyes and say, what are you doing? And it was hard because in high school, I don't think I had a lot of those friends. But I also had, some leaders at Christ Church that would do the exact same thing. And then when I stopped going to Koinonia, I think it was my senior year, I just kind of had turned a blind eye. I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. I just didn't feel like I deserved to go because I knew what I was doing. And I had one of my leaders show up on my front door, and she's like, where have you been? Here's some cookies. I'll drive you to church tonight. And I was like, why are you here? It was literally God knocking on my door saying, hello, what are you doing? And so I went to church that day, and I went to Camp Cowell that summer, and it was kind of just that realization of, you can run, you can try to hide, but as long as I was open and open about my struggles and the demons and the hardships that I was having with this faith journey, that someone was gonna help me get back on track if I was willing to be open about that and willing to accept it. And so ever since that knock on the door, here I am. It's easy to feel close to God when you're surrounded by it. And I think something for me that I had to find a way to do was make God and feel God in my everyday life. Because it's so easy to get in a routine and not realize, point out what God is doing and where God is present. And so for me, where I really feel God is when I'm working out, running, where I'm by myself, or I think I'm by myself, and it's where I get to kind of speak with God and talk to Him and slow down. So you're driving in the car, Another challenge that I had when I was interning here was listening to Christian music. And it's so true. There's things that we don't realize that affect us and feed into our everyday life. So for me, it's really when I have those moments to slow down, take a breath, and really appreciate what's happening, I really feel close to God. On my commute to work is something as well that I, throw on a podcast and listen to some podcasts about Jesus, or about ways to continue to grow your life. Or I wake up every morning and I read my devotional of Jesus Calling on my phone. And I think it's so easy for me, it was so easy to make an excuse. I don't have time today, I had a long day at work, I'm tired, I want to go to bed. All right, well, how'd I get to work? I had a 30-minute commute there and a 30-minute commute back. Well, I downloaded and bought the Jesus Calling on my phone. So I think for me, it's really being intentional about my faith. If I could look back at my high school or my middle school self and looking at my faith and the struggles that was happening, because we all have them, I would say find a mentor. Find whoever it is that you can relate to, that you can confide in, and stick with them. Because there's so many great people at Christ Church, or people you'll come across at any point in your life, these great, strong Christian leaders that will help you to stay on the right path and help you and meet you where you're at. And I think that's something for me that was huge, was when I got older and found, Pete and Michelle Knott, that they met me where I was at that point. And every time I talk to them, it's a different point, there's highs and the lows. And so I think for me, my biggest piece of advice to my 15, 16, 17-year-old self would be to seek out a mentor and stick with them, because they will change your life. A verse that has been particularly meaningful to me is Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. I think this is something that is big to me, is just to really trust in him. I would say I don't trust in a lot of people, and so just being able to trust in the Lord and really knowing that I know nothing and that he has a plan, and just understanding that you do it, I'm just here.